I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. We are joined by MycoGhoulie. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name is MycoGhoulie, otherwise going by the handle of Ghoul Cat Studios.
Yep.
You could also possibly find me under Mafia Cat Chamomile, as I do have the two characters.
Yes. It's all over the place. You cannot escape MycoGhoulie or any of the names used everywhere and everywhere. And we will have the links in the description for the video. So tell me, what are you doing with all of this stuff? How about that for a professional question?
Depends on what you mean by all of this stuff. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
You could start with lore. I have
Yeah.
a lot of stories I like to write, and
Yeah.
I've kind of found a way to put them all together into the lore.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could go with the fact that I have the two characters, which I know not everyone kind of understands, but there are some nuances to it that I think make it fun.
Okay, let's start with the lore.
Yeah, so I've kind of been writing, working on a little book that I've been writing, and when my friend came to me and was like, hey, have you heard of these VTuber things? And I was like, yeah, I kind of always wanted to be one. And they were like, I actually make VTuber models? And I was like, oh, well, you see.
I just happen to
That
know
was my
somebody.
chance.
I just happen to know somebody who might be able to use one of them things.
So I seized the chance because I think the story is fun, or at least has interesting concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, why not make it a VTuber? Why not try it?
Mm-hmm. And it's based. The VTuber is based on the story that you were already writing.
Yes,
Nice.
I have a whole little area. I've always been a big fan of cosmic horror and horror in general.
Yeah.
As well as noir style stories and such. So I kind of use that as my inspiration and have set up my little town in Louisiana where I have all my lore base.
There seems to be a lot of cosmic horror in some parts of Louisiana. The song Amos Moses comes to mind. But what do you mean by cosmic horror?
For me, I know I can't really do an accurate representation of it, at
Yeah.
least in VTubing, purely because part of cosmic horror is the unknown.
Right.
But what I mean is works inspired loosely off the Cthulhu mythos or works of H.P. Lovecraft, where it deals with the concepts of being insignificant, I guess, is the best way to put it. Cosmic horror, a lot of people think it's like, oh, it's a body horror type of thing, but in reality, what makes it scary is you can't fully comprehend it. What makes people go insane isn't the visuals, it's the suddenly comprehending something so far beyond you, and then not being able to comprehend it a second later.
Yeah.
So it's having a knowledge of something that you can't know, and that's what drives people to insanity in some cases.
Yeah, yeah, I understand a little bit now. It's something that exists, but according to my little fractured mind, shouldn't. And I have no explanation of why it exists, and that particular thing is going to drive me crazy for the rest of my life. That type of thing. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, is that something that you've always had an interest in, that genre?
I have always been a fan of the horror genre of all forms. I just particularly like the concept of madness, I guess, that as it is displayed in such things. I've always been a big fan of everyone has a dark side, and I like how the insanity displayed in the story can show everyone has a dark side, yes, but they also all display it differently.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for some, I would think that for some folks who are so so nice that their dark side is, not petting the cat when they come home. I mean, that's about
That is certainly one way to look at it. Yeah,
yeah. But but I imagine there's some folks too who are really really nice. So there's dark side is you don't want to know.
indeed. That's kind of what I like to play around with, at least at different parts in the story when I'm writing it.
Cool. And so, how long have you written things like this?
So mostly it started with I did a lot of art when I was younger,
Uh-huh.
and it constantly got compared to like, oh, that's really horrifying for X reason, and it started to get compared to it, and I was like, oh, I do kind of like that. And then eventually, I started looking into writing around high school. I started doing creative writing classes and such, and I found I very much enjoyed writing about the horrifying aspects. Yes, it can be a little predictable, but that's not always a bad thing, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
yeah. It I think would also depend on how you bring it about. I mean, you may know a solution, kind of guess the solution, but how is that solution going to happen?
Hmm.
How do you get there? And was there a choice somebody made that could have done something else, or along those lines, or maybe you go backwards from there and figure out how you got there. There's all sorts of different ways you can take it. Um, it just doesn't run out of gas for you, does it?
No, not really.
Yeah, yeah. So what was the first reading that you did that got you hooked on this? Do you remember?
Um, I guess the first story I read that kind of got me into everything, I guess, would probably be The Call of Cthulhu, just baseline. However, that kind of got me into it. I think my favorite was The Color Out of Space,
Ah,
and I
okay.
haven't read it in a while,
Hmm.
unfortunately, and I need to go back to.
Is there any particular movie that can be done well enough for that to work? Um,
I do think there are movies that make a good attempt, but I cosmic horror is a genre where I think having visuals actually really does detract from it.
yeah, yeah. It's so tough to if you're thinking about something that's immense or at least immensely incomprehensible, then you're reducing it to being comprehensible immediately.
Hmm.
Um,
Which is, I think, some things that kind of do it not necessarily well, but representations I like. I do like I believe it was, oh, what's his name? But there was a recent Color Out of Space adaptation. Maybe not recent. It's been a few years still.
yeah.
And while I don't see the movie overall as necessarily very good, I do think it is a decent representation purely because a lot of the people I know that watched it were all very confused and disturbed by it because they're like, none of this makes any sense.
Mm,
And I think that is kind of a good representation of it then because
mm.
it's not exactly supposed to.
Yeah, it's supposed to. You get a glimpse, and that's all you really get. And then you can't.
Mhm.
It's like you can't hold on to it after that. You can't grab it, but you can. You had one chance to look at it. How about the movie 2001? Would that count?
Um, I I do think 2001: The Space Odyssey, if that's the one you're referring to in
Yep.
specific,
Yep.
I think it's I wouldn't call it cosmic horror exactly, but it does definitely have some aspects that very much fit.
Mm, yeah. I would be thinking because I mean there's obvious they did the best with the graphics of the time. I mean you're talking early 70s and then but
Yeah.
but the concept I remember I've seen it a couple of times because it really does throw me for a loop. But the concept is left open ended at the end, and
Mhm.
you really still don't know what's going on.
That
It
is that's definitely true.
yeah. Now, if you watch
Um,
2010, then you wish you didn't watch 2010.
I along that kind of same line, I think one that uh, is interesting to me along the lines of technology getting influenced by such things, possibly, or rather, um, an interesting way to view it. There's a short story by Harlan Ellison called "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream,"
Oh yeah.
and I wouldn't necessarily call it cosmic horror, but I feel it has aspects that could very much fit given a few tweaks.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And Harlan Ellison, uh, there's a reason why people who don't even know about science fiction writing knows Harlan Ellison. It's like people
That
who
is definitely the
it's like
case.
people who don't know racing know who Richard Petty is. Okay. There's it just if you never know an actor, and I'd say John Wayne, you know where that's coming from.
Hmm.
That's just right up there. And um, so, what about? I mean, does that make the regular science fiction type stories and games mundane for you?
No, not at all. I've always liked stories of any form.
Yeah.
Never been the most social, admittedly.
Mm.
I have always liked performing. I've performed my whole life, so obviously I like to perform, but
Yeah.
I'm not good at the social aspects of not being on a stage.
Mm.
So when I was off stage, I would read, and that
Hmm.
was most of my enjoyment. So I've always loved all sorts of stories, especially fantasy, science fiction, all of those.
Hmm. Yeah. And so it's just that this is a particular combination of genres that really hits you the most.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I see that you caught on to that pretty young. A lot of folks wouldn't have gotten into that till a little later.
Well, I definitely have my favorite book growing up, at least from the ages of like 3 to 5, was I would just read dictionaries and encyclopedias.
Mm.
Um, and one of my hobbies now, even that most people my age probably wouldn't call a hobby, is I like to do calculations for aerodynamics, study theoretical physics, and do math.
Uh, yes,
So
yes.
when I'm bored, that's what I go do. Is
Uh,
I go do math
I,
for plane calculations
I,
and such.
yeah. Well, if you got it, use it. So we actually bought for our grandson. When he was about 5. There's a series of books, Quantum Physics for Babies, and I'll be danged if he didn't read it and tell us what was in it. I'm like, cool. I mean, by the time he was old enough to figure out how to draw things, he drew a molecule on a uh, whiteboard and showed it to us. Like, and the fellow who was kind of teaching him along the way, his great grandfather's like, well, yeah, that is actually a molecule for. But he showed it to him, and like, okay, it's pretty scary. Who's the father again? Try to figure this, do some DNA testing here. But no, it's to have that early on in life, um, and that did you have that curiosity early on that you wanted to keep finding out more about this stuff?
I guess you could call it curiosity. Maybe morbid curiosity is the best way to put it, though.
Mm.
I've been told several times. Growing up, the only goal I ever really made that anyone knew about is my parents keep telling me my goal growing up was to rule the earth.
Well, I mean,
So all of my inquiries always seem to be not necessarily negative, but
yeah, yeah,
they're kind of like, they're learning pretty fast.
yeah. Well, you got to have a dream, and of course, the way it's going these days, you can have my part. Try to do better than I did, okay? The With that, how how did you get from there to doing the VTuber thing?
Um, like I said, I have always liked to perform.
Mhm.
However, after graduating from high school, I didn't necessarily have a way to do that regularly.
Right.
There weren't school performances to do. There wasn't a drama club, and I just didn't have a way to really get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't socialize whatsoever
Mm-hmm.
unless I was working. So I kind of had to eventually start to do more. So I started to get into Dungeons and Dragons and again and do all sorts of role playing games and such. So eventually I started to make friends. And from there, I eventually learned about the VTuber thing once that came around. And I definitely had an interest and but I never really wanted to go out of my way for it,
Right.
which is why when my friend happened to be like, "Yeah, actually, I am a VTuber and I actually make models if you ever want to commission one," and I was like, "Bestie, you already know."
That's it. So do you believe in Providence? That's perfect. So how being a a very different medium than going out on stage and being in front of people. How long did it take for you to be comfortable with it?
I never really struggled with it actually.
Yeah.
For me, all perform any type of performance is the same. So like when I can get a job, recently most of my jobs have been bartending.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a performance in itself. So I've
Oh yeah.
always been a performer of some sort, so
Mm-hmm.
VTubing was pretty natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't really take much to adapt. I didn't get into it for a little while. Like I had started everything, and I was mostly just waiting. Of course, having a model get made it takes a little while, so
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what to do. And eventually I was just like, I kind of want to start streaming now. So I got into it. And I think it was like my first week of actually streaming on Twitch, I was already at affiliate. So I
Ooh.
was already getting some monetization off of it. So I didn't struggle too much with it. And I don't know if that's because I happen to have just quickly made connections to get viewership or such. But I didn't struggle with it much.
Well, well.
Mind you, I'm not getting large numbers most
Uh,
of the time. I don't mind that
yeah. Can you supersize your fries with it?
though.
That's an old radio joke. Was that's what our Christmas bonuses used to be. We actually had somebody who got a Christmas bonus of $2.50. And I'm like, man, you had the guts to write that check. I would have been so embarrassed. But then
Yeah.
I also would have kept the money. But the getting to this and getting the audience and getting them to follow you came pretty quickly. How did?
Yeah, when I my viewership isn't necessarily consistent because
Yeah.
anymore I've been struggling to stream consistently. Variety of health issues. I got diagnosed with some chronic illnesses like arthritis, and I was
Oh.
like, oh, well, that's less than fortunate. But I do still manage to get to streams and
Mm.
everything, and my community's always been supportive of me, so it's going well still.
Yeah. Says you are part of the ibuprofen brigade. Yeah. Yeah, I was taken out about 10 years ago with a form of arthritis, and I was on a walker for a couple of months, and
Mm.
and then a wheelchair for a day or two, and thankfully bounced back from that with massive doses of ibuprofen. I would swim in that
I
stuff if I could. Mm.
It doesn't necessarily bother me a lot. I'm kind of used to it. The only thing that really gets to me is I can't draw for like 16 hours a day anymore.
Ah, it's the
'Cause
hands.
my hand after like 3 hours was like, hey, we ain't working anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I've got one in my middle finger in my right hand is swollen up with in one of the joints. So I really cannot bring it back in for a fist. So I'm not really flipping anybody off. Probably, but I'm an old man. And you have to deal with what comes up. But that is really painful. And if you get in a situation where it affects your work, and you do any type of repetitive types of things, it's
It
really awful.
definitely takes its toll.
Yeah, it does. It does. And being able to do this, have you found it to be, tough on your hands or anything while you're doing it?
So most of the VTubing aspects, like games and such, I can manage. I do have medication to help me manage. It's mostly just I can't draw as much anymore, which is devastating to me. I do really like to draw, but
Yeah,
I'm not gonna sweat it.
yeah,
I can still get art done sometimes, and it generally
yeah,
doing pretty good.
yeah, yeah. So, did you first start writing?
Um, it's like I think really in earnest, I didn't start writing till high school, but I've always liked the thought of being a writer.
Mm, yeah. So,
Uh,
how do you
Not
actually
necessarily successful as a job for it, but I do just like to write. It is a nice outlet.
how do you kick yourself in the rear to actually do it and put it on the paper?
That's definitely the hardest part. Eventually, it's just a um, oh well, my brain won't leave me alone. Maybe if I put it on paper, it'll go away for a little bit, and
Yeah,
then it does generally. So
yeah.
it's more of a my brain just keeps creating until I need to get it out, and then I write it
Mm,
down.
I've got like 6 or 7 short story ideas kicking around in my head, and I know that I'm not going to make a bunch of money on them, but they're pretty decent concepts. I'd like to put them out on paper or at least on the computer, but every time I start, there's something else to do.
I definitely feel that. Luckily, or I say luckily, my antisocial nature does give me a lot of free time.
There you go. It works in your favor.
It really does to a degree. Um,
It's not a bug;
the
it's a
only
feature.
problem being talking can be hard purely
Yeah.
because I go so many hours a day sometimes where I don't talk that I've slowly been losing that skill a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So streaming is my supplement for remembering to speak.
Yeah, yeah. That's um, for a radio guy like me, that's the end of the world there.
I used to be very well enunciated with my words, and when I haven't done vocal warm-ups and such anymore, I slur my speech so much and forget words.
Yeah, yeah. If you have anything type happen, I had a little ischemic thing a few years ago, and for a little while, I was a little tongue-tied on occasion, and a little foggy in the head for a bit. It's thankfully cleared up to where my normal fog is now. Um, but that was scary. I mean, or if you just lose your voice with a bad throat condition, it's scary too. You never
Mhm.
realize how much that is, and in with the streaming, I have actually met some folks, and I've interviewed at least one who was a mute streamer.
Yeah, I don't know if I could ever do that,
Yeah,
but if I ever have to, I think I'll be able to adapt to it perfectly fine.
yeah, yeah. It's an interesting, and I guess they have the technology is there now for it. I mean, if they can have AIs do things.
Mhm.
There's your cosmic horror right there is AI.
I my favorite bit of AI being cosmic horror or horrifying lately is um scientists gave AI a task of surviving in Tetris as long as they can.
Yeah.
So the AI paused Tetris. Here's the thing: if you've ever played the original Tetris,
Yes.
there is no way to pause it.
Yes.
So instead of playing the game properly, it found an outside way to break the game because it determined that to be the best solution, which has horrifying implications of if we put AI in charge of other things.
Yes. Yes. That definitely does have a. That's a real. That's an Albert Hitchcock moment there.
That is definitely
Ooh, Twilight Zone.
indeed.
Yeah, no, you can't pause Tetris. I had it for the NES, so you really couldn't. You just kept going until
Definitely not.
3 o'clock in the morning. Um, so when you're streaming, um, Now, what with you and Chad? What type of relationship do you have?
I to a degree it depends on which character, because I do have them interact a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
So for I guess the main character, MycoGhoulie, the kind of eldritch fungus that she is,
Mm-hmm.
she's not necessarily. I won't call her mean, but it's a. How do I put this?
Witchy?
So the lore is that the viewers are the cultists, quote unquote, as a joke
Oh,
there,
yeah,
for her.
yeah.
So she very much acts as a theoretical god might to a cult. Whether that's positive at times or negative, however she sees fit. So it's
Yes.
chat isn't allowed to have opinions is more than one a joke I've made before. Obviously not true. I think everyone should have their opinion. But
Yes.
character wise, no, you're not
Yeah.
allowed to have an opinion. Do what I say.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a good.
And the other character, Chamomile, he is a mafioso bootlegger type, and the viewers for him are his bootlegger family.
Mm.
So he's much nicer in comparison, a lot friendlier, a little more outgoing.
A bootlegger is more friendly.
Well, so here's the thing. When you think of a mafia, it's commonly referred to as like a mob family.
Yeah.
So he treats them like a family.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. We.
I really like this because I don't necessarily like stories where there are good and evil clearly defined. So I took okay, we got bad guy and we got worse guy.
Yeah. You choose the lesser of the two evils, or don't.
That was the goal, and somehow the greater of the two evils is still the more popular one.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just got to give in and embrace the dark side. And that's when you talk about the dark side of folks too, and and that assumes to some people there is only two sides to somebody.
There is always a little bit of duality,
Yeah,
I think, on anything,
yeah,
but there's very, very clearly more than two sides of things.
yeah,
Even for me, I do have in the story, there are other factions, I guess you could say. There are other groups,
yeah,
unassociated parties, characters who aren't on either side necessarily.
yeah. And they're part of it, but just not the main part right now.
They're not the main focus.
Yeah,
The main focus is mostly anymore. At least there's an ongoing joke that neither party can win because even though Cam wins every fight,
yeah,
emotionally he is losing.
yeah.
Uh, as Maiko, while she can't win, she can make his life awful. And
Pyrrhic
does
victories.
so at every opportunity.
Pyrrhic victories. Those are the best. the the concept of the right left good bad black white type things. Um, I think a lot of people, and a lot of authors are moving away from that kind of two dimensional thinking and
Definitely.
going towards more three dimensional with a little more depth. Um, you know, I hope that we're learning in general that you can't just live in two dimensions. um,
Yeah,
there's got to be some
that's
other way to do these things.
definitely
Heck,
that's definitely something I want to try and play up
yeah,
a little bit once I get further into the story writing wise,
yeah,
is because yes, Chamomile is the quote unquote good guy. He's helping to save humanity because he thinks they're redeemable,
uh-huh.
but he's also a criminal. He's a mob boss.
Mm-hmm.
He has definitely done questionable things to get where he is and will continue to do so.
Yeah, yeah. It's just his what he does.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's the decision making that some folks do, and if it works for them, fine. But I think that the more that we think in three dimensions, the better off we're going to be. Um, and we actually have like new ideas of things,
Yeah.
like breaking Tetris, and that was a computer
I
doing that for crying out loud. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, there's
I think it's important in any situation to be able to look at things from every facet
yeah,
before making a decision.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so I think that's definitely true that you need to be able to look at things from more than just black and white.
yeah. And it's the reason why when you have somebody talking to I'd be doing an interview with you right now, and somebody else does an interview with you, the questions will be different, the answers will
Hmm.
be different, and you'll learn different things about them
Hmm.
because you're slicing at a different angle into the apple. It's going to come out a little differently. Um, those that's why we need more people involved in these things. I've always thought, and the more different ideas we celebrate the differences rather than the sameness. Um, if everything was the same, boy, it would be boring. Especially if it was all me. Boy, I would really be boring. Um, I would be bored.
I think you could manage if nothing else.
I don't know. I mean, I want all of the pizza rolls, and I would have to fight myself every day to get the rest of the pizza rolls from them. Um, the What do you want to do with the channel this year? Have you got some big goals for yourself?
I don't necessarily have any goals set. This is as much as I would love to do streaming as a job, this is just a hobby for me. I
Mm,
do it for fun
mm,
because I like to perform.
yeah.
Um, so I don't really have goals set for it. Would it be nice to do well and succeed? Absolutely, but that's not really what I'm here for.
Mm,
I'm just here to have fun.
yeah. And are you having the fun?
Yeah, I'd say I'm having at least a modicum of fun, if nothing else.
Is it? I mean, did you come in with any expectations? Because it didn't sound like you did.
No, I really didn't. I was like, oh, well, okay, that's not completely true. I did come in with expectations, and that was to spend every stream for the rest of eternity probably talking to no one the whole time. So I'm already doing better than my
And there
expectations.
you go. You're infinitely ahead of those expectations. But the fact that people are coming back to you and being a community with you, and have already got you up uh, to the status and very quickly. How does that hit you when you realize they are coming back for you and your personality?
I think, well, there is part of me that believes it might just be the times I stream because a lot of my audience is European in nature.
Uh-huh.
So I think I happen to stream at times when there are a lot of availabilities at different places where maybe other people aren't streaming. So if nothing else, there's at least one thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other part of it might be is like it's pleasant to see that people enjoy my content.
Mm. And it fulfilling, justifying that type of feeling?
I wouldn't necessarily say I guess fulfilling fits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd say justifying or anything. It's like I said, I just do it because I like to. Even if no one's there, I'd probably still stream.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like you're really enjoying yourself with it. Is there a
I,
certain
I like to.
is there a certain type of stream you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
Um, Not necessarily that I haven't done yet. I do most of the types of streams I like. I'd like to do more like tabletop RPG style content.
Mm.
Right now I'm last night I just did my first session for my Call of Cthulhu campaign that we're going to be hosting,
Mm.
and I'd like to do at least one of my D&D games that I have that I've wanted to run, and maybe a sci-fi game.
Ah,
But other than that, I in general, I just kind of like to be there. I would like to do more art, but again, as we have established, that's my one thing that I'm limited on.
yeah, yeah. Unless you learn how to draw with the other hand.
So the thing is, the reason I draw with my right hand now is because my left hand is completely out of commission,
Ah, there
in
you
terms
go.
of drawing.
Yeah.
So I'm already limited down to one hand for 3 or 4 hours a day if I want to be able to do anything else.
And see, that's the thing. Us left-handers, we learned how to do things with our right hand.
Hmm.
Right-handers
I've never met a left-handed person that isn't at least a little bit
Oh
ambidextrous.
yeah, right-handers, they can't do anything with their left hand. They
It's
it's funny.
funnily enough, in archery and shooting sports and such, I still use left eye dominance for that, even though for the most part I've had to adapt to using right hand for everything.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's the problem with me. I don't know which eye to use. I end up
That
cross-eyed down the middle.
is that's the issue. Is it's like I mean they both work just as well. This one's a tiny bit better.
Yeah. Well, when I would bat in baseball left-handed and golf right-handed.
I also did baseball left-handed.
Yeah. Well, no, I threw right-handed,
Um,
so it was all over the place. And if I play darts, if I wanted to go straight, I use my left hand, but it'll probably fall short. If I want to get it to the board, I'll use my right hand, but I might hit the waitress. So
I mean, maybe she won't notice.
yeah, well,
It's just a bit of acupuncture, you know?
some of the bars I used to go to, I'm sure they wouldn't notice. Um, That's unfortunately true. The the ability that you've been able to show to adapt and continue going, and continue to at least enjoy yourself while doing this, that shows some grit, that you've been able to overcome that sort of thing and continue to go, because really when something like that hits you and hits a particular field that you enjoy and limits you in doing that, um, that is very tough for some people to bounce back from.
I struggle with enough other things that I don't really feel like anything trying to get in my way should stop me,
Mm,
realistically.
yeah, yeah. It's you take the bull by the horns at that point, and you just ride them out until the horns fall off, I guess. Um, and really, it sounds like to me like you're not somebody who's going to give up easy.
I don't typically. Uh, I also just, I know some people are like, oh, things are awful. I don't see the point in being negative, I guess.
Hmm.
If it doesn't benefit me, it's not something I'm going to do. So there is an ongoing joke that I don't have emotions because I'm like, oh, that would suck. Anyways,
How does it affect me?
and it's very much well, yeah, I could spend time being sad or
Yeah,
upset about any of these given things, but that literally helps no one.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So there's no point in it.
sooner or later you have to try to walk, or
Mhm.
try to figure out something. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and stew in your own juices. And what are you going to do about that after a while? I mean, you gotta while you have the life, you live it, and
Indeed.
do what you can with it. Sounds like to me that folks need to find out what you've got going on over there, and it's we haven't even really got started on the the ghost company that you were talking about. Maybe we can get you on again and talk about that. How about that?
For sure.
Absolutely, because I want to get you back on soon. Too interesting. You're too interesting a person to just limit to one show. Folks, we'll have all the links we've been able to find in the introduction, or the commentary for this particular interview on YouTube. Michael, thanks so much for coming on. I do appreciate it, and we'll
I very much enjoyed being here.
thank you. We'll get you on again here soon. Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.